For background, my fiance and I, 20s, moved into this house about 2 months ago. We're pretty quiet people, we mainly work and I study. We have a puppy who is still being trained, but is doing remarkably well. We previously lived with people who would manage to undo everything we taught her. We've had people over twice, within restrictions, once for housewarming, and one D&D game. Though they were louder than we usually are, I could not hear the D&D game from the bathroom, end of house, and the housewarming after about 11 p.m. was only a few people and very quiet. We don't play music. We received a letter from our neighbors, and the whole thing feels like a threat. It mentions our foul mouths, our dog getting out, she did twice the first week we moved in, but we found her quickly, and defecating everywhere, and how loud we are. It included the phrases probably best you sell or rent your house, because you've pissed us all off, don't think this is a joke, probably best you leave, do yourselves the favor, and go back to Sydney, we're not from Sydney, and we don't want you here. We are worried about our dog's safety, and I am worried about leaving the house by myself. We only have a driveway, and I'm worried that this will escalate into acts to get us to leave. I am a university student and we have our car loans to pay off. We can't afford to get cameras at the moment, but I don't feel safe at home. So, would I be the idiot for going to the police, even though potentially it was just a letter? I don't think you should assume that there are multiple people in the neighborhood that feel the same way as the author of the letter. It seems like people frequently use "we" when they are trying to win an argument or trying to bully someone. I would talk to the police to have it documented that you received a threatening letter. You have every right to be there and you deserve to feel safe in your home. As soon as you can, get some security cameras. Be cautious with your dog, don't leave them in the backyard unattended, and try not to show that you are worried. If another letter arrives, I wouldn't even open it. Not the idiot. Call the police. Those are real threats, and, sadly, all the cops can do is talk to them, but if it escalates you need to have a paper trail. Police are sadly not well equipped to find culprits unless they are handed evidence, such as this letter, rather than hearsay, so do so in case your neighbors do something else. Not the idiot. Report them for your fiancés and own peace of mind. If they're sending you letters like that, they're probably not above doing something that may harm your fam, including your puppy or your house. Just call the non-emergency line for the police station close to you and let them know what's happening, they'll take the next steps. Keep a copy of the letter, any others they send, and also record any conversation with them as evidence. I'm getting a major surgery done in about 3 weeks, and I was told there's a 60-80% chance it will kill me. It's 60% if I do all the things the surgeon told me to do to prepare for the surgery, take supplements, gain weight fast, lots of protein, and I'm following all the rules. So let's say my chances of dying are 60%. That's not great but not too horrible. The thing is that I've had this exact surgery before, and I came out just fine, so my family has no reason to think this time will be any different, aside from the risk involved with any surgery. However, for reasons involving my medical condition, TM, this time the surgery is riskier. My family consists of my older brother, 28, who I, 27, live with, and my mom, 54, who lives on the other side of the country. My brother is very protective of me, and my mom still acts like I'm her little boy. The only reasons I could think of to tell them would be 1. Give them time to prepare for the possibility of my death. But I don't think this is something they can prepare for. I'm sure they'd just be miserable for the time leading up to the surgery. I don't want that. 2. Give us all a chance to make happy memories before the surgery. Again, I don't think that can happen when we'd only be doing it because I might die soon. It would feel forced and desperate, and they would only be pretending to not be miserable, and I'd be unhappy because I would know they're miserable. I'm leaning towards ignorance as bliss for everyone involved. If I survive, no harm done, and all that potential misery would be for nothing. If I die, well, that's a risk of any surgery, and their final moments with me wouldn't have had that misery. And with my medical condition, TM, it's unlikely I'd make it to retirement age anyway. But is it right for me to hide something this big, even if it's to spare them pain? What are your thoughts? I am hopeful that OP miscalculated his recovery time and gave us 3 or 4 weeks from original post. Surgeries can be complicated, and recovery times can depend on if any complications have risen during or after the surgery. I have no idea what I am talking about, but it's more of something I tell myself every time I check, and he is not here. Come back soon, buddy, everyone is praying for your speedy recovery. No idiots here, but I hope you're putting your affairs in order beforehand to make things easier for them if you do pass. Otherwise, they might interpret you not telling them as you not trusting them, or something like that. Regardless, hope things go well for you. This is a personal decision and you have the right to not worry them with such a grim prognosis. You know your family best, and only you know what would be best for them. I have a family member who was in a similar situation. While their brother and the rest of the family knew that they would die young, they never told them that there was a very high chance of them dying on a particular day. They died. It's been about 15 years now and he still struggles with not being able to say he loved them one last time. My mother died a month ago. She was 78 and long divorced from my father. She had married again, we will call her second husband Giles. My mother left a will in which all her property and assets go to Giles. So far so good, I don't feel slighted by this, and there are no large sums of money or items of any sentimental value at stake as far as I know. Plot twist. It is not a legal will because of her decision to leave it all to Giles. In the country where she lived, not the country where I live, it is not legal for a parent to leave a will which doesn't include their children. So, Giles is not getting my mother's assets unless I sign some kind of form to say that I renounce my legal claim to my share. I don't know how much of a share is required by law. So, why would I not just do this? 1. I despise Giles and always have. He is a toxic narcissist. 2. My mother knew I felt this way. 3. Specifically, I blame his distrust of conventional medicine for my mother's ill health in her old age. Giles specifically discouraged her from taking medicine prescribed to her in favor of natural and homeopathic remedies. 4. I'm not 100% sure why my mother, a calm, intelligent and conflict-avoiding sort of person, would have done something which was literally guaranteed to cause conflict and legal difficulty after her death. Any competent lawyer in that country would have strongly advised against it. Some thoughts. A. Was she pressured into doing it or convinced to sign a will without reading it? B. It seems like the kind of thing Giles would have convinced her to do out of sheer narcissism when it could have been avoided if she just left me a token amount to satisfy the legal requirement. C. Was she trying to force us to reconcile by making this troublesome will which requires us to contact each other after her death and for me to make a formal act of generosity toward Giles? D. Maybe there is a lot of money at stake. That would come as a surprise because they lived like poor people and as far as I know their assets were all used up or sold off long ago. But you hear stories about people who lived like paupers and then left millions in their will. The lawyer's letter doesn't say anything about the actual estate. Thoughts? Disclosure. Doesn't 100% match the automod copy of the post because I had to reformat the sub-list and I also made a couple of minor grammar edits. Also, my throwaway username was supposed to be probatabate, but I fat-fingered it. Although I suppose I am probabe. You're the idiot. It's interesting for me as a stranger on the internet, but your mother's last wishes shouldn't be something you make into a game of Clue. Whatever you do, do it amicably out of respect for her. Don't use her death as a platform for a power trip. Sorry it's harsh, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it, and for the record Giles sounds like an absolute idiot and I would be spiteful toward him too, just not like this. Move on. I hate to say it because I don't blame you at all, but you are the idiot. The action in itself isn't the problem, but your motivation. You said you were fine with it all going to him before you learned that it wasn't legally sound. That means you wanted to screw him over. You also don't think she left much, so it's not even for personal benefit, it's just because you don't like Giles. You're the idiot. You were fine with it to begin with. You've only changed because you've gotten this new power over someone you didn't like, so you've invented reasons to justify it. Maybe mum did this so we'd reconcile. Is very dubious. And maybe there's a secret fortune at stake. Is even more so. Never mind your speculation that he drove her to death and that he forced a will on her. Please recognize that you're just lashing out against someone you dislike when you say things like that. You can contest a will if you want, you're legally allowed to. But do it for honest reasons, don't just make up excuses. I have several cousins who flipping hate my guts right now cause of my dead great uncle. I am a 19-year-old female, just got my military contract a year ago, and have just been kinda bouncing around for a while. My great-uncle was a 76-year-old man and is the greatest man to ever live. So apparently. My uncle has been sick for a while, but didn't tell anyone. He had cancer and instead of treatment wanted to ride it out like a G. I never knew this and just kept visiting him since I knew he was older and helped him out when I wasn't working. Cleaning up his house, taking the dogs to the vet and other simple stuff when I had time or would pay for services. He died peacefully in his sleep. But when they read the will, he made me the sole inheritancer of everything. His inheritance is worth well over 5.4 mil, not including the houses that are now in my name. I honestly didn't even know he was wealthy at all, since he just lived in this sort of dirt trailer in the middle of nowhere. He has 6 kids that are all grown up and his wife, my aunt, died 2 years ago. He wrote a letter with his will, and while I won't type out most of it, pretty much ripping down his kids and called them money-hungry idiots that didn't deserve the dog crap in his yard, and called his only daughter, my cousin, a horse-faced idiot that has children pretty much marching out her legs as much as guys go into them. Along with so many more insults that made the lawyer blush. So I inherited everything and planning his funeral, which is just cremation and dumping his ashes. I'm the Rocky Mountains. But his kids, my cousins, are threatening to sue me for the money and his estate and saying they deserve it cause they are his kids. But he specifically said not to give them crap or even let them take his stuff. And all the kids lived on his properties as well, and he's evicted them all, so they have 30 days to leave their homes. Since I now own their houses. I've been threatening my boyfriend, who has been staying out of this, saying that he should correct his woman or that they will come over and steal stuff from his house, the valuable stuff of course like his giant TV and jewelry. While the sister has been calling me non-stop saying that I better give her something cause she has 8 kids, all little crap heads, and deserves it more since she was banking on her dad's money to help her with money. They were even excited when we went in to read the will, like they had just won the lottery, and I was the only one sad he is actually gone. I'm legit pissed and everything. Those idiots are going to actually try to take me to court with the 3 brain cells they share. If I'm honest, I don't even want anything. I didn't want anything to begin with, I was only there cause I'm in charge of his funeral. I was originally going to see if I could split it with them, but cause of the way they are all acting, I don't know if I want to. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. This is a lot to put on a 19-year-old. Do not make any permanent decisions right now. Even if you didn't expect or want his estate, he definitely didn't want his kids to profit from it. Don't betray his confidence in you by giving them anything. His lawyer should have made the will contest proof, and even if there is some daylight there, you have the letter that shows his intention to cut them out. Leave it to your lawyer to handle their threats and any eventual court fights. Follow through with your plans for his funeral and have your lawyer set up some security for his house. Find a property manager to proceed with carrying out their notices to vacate and to find new tenants. Then ask your lawyer for a good financial planner to keep the estate intact while you learn what you need to know to become more involved. Be careful that none of the professional take advantage of your youth. Your whole family is the idiot. It sounds like they were idiots before, and it's your relative's choice to leave the money to you. Don't give them a penny and call the cops if the threats get too bad. If they even try to file a lawsuit, if you have even a half-decent lawyer you'll win because it says specifically in his will, you are the sole inheritor. I started dating my now wife when my stepdaughter, SD, was 13. She was an unruly child who constantly cried and whined and lashed out for attention. My wife couldn't take SD's crap anymore, so she kicked her out when she was 14. SD moved in with her father, who's a jerk to me and my wife, but he did a good job disciplining SD. He had turned her into a nice, quiet and obedient child. SD continued to behave and treat us with respect until she moved to another city when she was 24. She stopped coming home for holidays. My wife was devastated, but she understood that SD needed to have a life of her own. SD is 28 now, and the angry emails started coming 2 years ago. They're incoherent rant-filled emails with all kinds of outlandish accusations toward my wife. Lots of accusations of neglect and abuse being thrown around. More accusations of favoring her siblings over her. My wife tried to justify herself in the beginning, but it only made SD angrier, so my wife decided to ignore these emails altogether. Every time my wife gets one of these nasty emails, she breaks down crying. She has had to call off work to recoup from the pain of reading these emails. I've spent countless hours comforting my wife and telling her that she was not the problem and SD just needed therapy to deal with her own issues instead of taking them out on my wife. My wife has another daughter who's SD's younger sister. Honestly, she's much nicer and gets along with my wife. She goes to my wife every time she has a problem and my wife helps her out. She treats my wife with respect and there's nothing but love between the two of them. They have an excellent mother-daughter relationship. SD has always been very jealous of her sister and she resents the wonderful relationship her mother and sister have. Last November, SD's younger sister found out she was pregnant and the baby's father skipped out on her. Of course, she came to my wife for comfort. We offered to let her move in with us until she got back on her feet. SD found out what happened and she flipped out. My wife got yet another angry email. SD accused her always making time for her younger sister and not her. My wife was stressed out about the pregnancy, so she ignored SD's email. I read it and decided that enough was enough. I emailed SD. Told her to stop living in the past and if she treated her mother better, she'd have a relationship with her like her younger sister does. Of course SD got pissed off. She sent everyone in the family a goodbye letter and cut all of us out of her life. My wife is devastated and they're all blaming me for driving her away. I thought that she was just bluffing for attention, but it's been 8 months and none of us have heard a peep from her. I still think I did the right thing by putting her in her place. She probably felt that no one would take her crap anymore so she fled. But I still feel bad for driving a bigger wedge between her and her mother. Am I the idiot? Everyone's the idiot here apart from your stepdaughter. It sounds very much like all the adults in her life have let her down. Witnessing domestic abuse is traumatizing for a child, no wonder she was acting out. Instead of getting her support and help, she has been treated like an unwanted nuisance, kicked out at the age of 14 and sent to an abuser. She has every right to be angry with all of you. You're the idiot and the rest of SD's parents are as well. Lots of 14-year-olds are terrible, it's a rough time of life for most people, but it sounds like she witnessed abuse and a messy divorce. Did anyone try to put her in therapy during this time? Did anyone try to talk to her themselves about what she was feeling and experiencing? Sounds like she didn't get the support she desperately needed, she got ignored and pushed to the side for mommy's new man. Picking her out to live with an abuser is just about the worst thing you could have done. Of course she's pissed now. I keep seeing your comments saying she needs to take responsibility for herself, that she's not a child anymore. Well buddy, you've been an adult throughout this entire mess. Where's your responsibility and self-reflection? You're the idiot. You aren't her actual father, but you have known her more than half her life, so there is reason for you to care and want to do something. However, I think you were wrong to get involved this way. Their relationship wasn't going to be resolved by your interjection. All you did was drag yourself into the line of fire and made a convenient target of yourself. You also went on the offensive. Fixing relationships doesn't work that way.